into its most awaited and exciting agenda, the Gala dinner and Grit Awards. The Grit Awards are organized with the aim of promoting sustainable practices and recognizing companies and individuals who champion and have masterfully embodied these efforts. Before commencing with the award announcements, let us put our hands together and give a big round of applause to the mastermind behind this wonderful event, Dr. Nisha Kohli, the visionary founder of Corpstage, a smart automated self-managed ESG platform. Now, we proceed with the dinner. Please enjoy the sustainable vegan dinner we've had prepared for you.
Thank you, Visita. Yeah, since morning I have been here on the stage and talking about the event, which is ESG World Summit and Grit Awards. We talked about different themes. We had panels. We had overarching discussions and impressive takeaways from the insightful, thoughtful leadership today since morning. When I organize this event, it's an annual global event for Corpstage. When I organize this event and I talk with different stakeholders in different countries, I've been asked, what do you do with this event? Are you event organizers? No, we are not. So it's just out of passion that 8 women, they came together and conceptualized this event, and we carried it forward. And we saw that it's making an impact in terms of building relationships. The Grit Awards applicants, they gain a lot of value from this. And that's where, we stand. And that gives us motivation to do work more, work harder to make an impact. What is Corpstage? So what is Corpstage? Corpstage is, maybe the name is misleading as a stage is the name. Stage is there, so I'm on the stage all the time, but it's not. The meaning of the word Corpstage is that to do sustainability, corporates are the ones who will do sustainability, because we talked about consumerism today in the morning with Dr. Katia's Fireside. We talked about consumerism. So our patterns of consumption changed with the motivations that corporates had. And so we believe that corporates have to change the way they do businesses. The transformations have to happen. And that's why the name Corpstage, that means a stage where corporates have to perform. And Corpstage is a SaaS-based platform. It's a SaaS-based platform, it's a tech platform where corporates perform. So how did we come up with this name? It's like you have all Facebook page, LinkedIn page. We have corporate profile page where ESG information is reflected. So if you go to a corporate profile page, you will see all the ESG indicators at a glance at a Corpstage platform. What do we get out of that indicators? Today morning, we also heard from Dr. Sasha Pleslik about ratings and rankings. And I think other panel also, they spoke about rating and rankings. So rating and rankings are not going anywhere. We cannot rely on them. And it's been years now. I don't want to name the company, but yesterday I got to know that 30, 40 people were laid off from a rating ranking company recently. So that's not going to help. So what is going to help in terms of investments, where institutional investors going to invest in companies or individual investors going to invest in companies, we need to evaluate companies on the basis of ESG indicators, private equity, venture capitalists, today all those discussions we already had. So what we thought, if we can eliminate the middle layer of ratings and rankings and directly report corporate information related to ESG to all the stakeholders, and that's why Corpstage. So it's a platform where corporates, all information comes and you can see. But how does that information gets accumulated there? It's not like a reporting platform, which most of the companies here present, they would be using as ESG reporting platform based on the frameworks. So You choose the framework, you fill the templates, you get the report. No, that's from my side, it's a top-down approach. What we follow at Corpstage is a bottom-up approach. You imagine that you're an individual, you came today, you carried your business cards, you introduce yourself. That's how corporates introduce themselves on Corpstage platform. This is what we are, this is the name, this is where the business is, and so on and so forth. They introduce their stakeholders, they calculate their materiality, and then they make their commitments that this is what we are going to do in this year, and this is the performance we have achieved through different initiatives. So Corpstage reports initiatives, projects-based information. So we give you information not on the ESG framework indicators, but we give you information on projects that a company has taken. Based on that, we tell you this project achieved these SDGs, this project achieved these many indicators of ESG. That's where verifiability and credibility comes in. And that is all done on the blockchain network. Now, what's the use of blockchain? Blockchain makes it verifiable because all the evidences that you upload on the platform, anybody can check it and verify it. There are physical verifications possible in terms of carbon calculation, in terms of other ESG, matters. So that's one part of the platform. Second part of the platform is for service providers. So I'm sure here there are consultants who are helping, there are investors who are helping companies. So there is a user profile that can be created on a platform where ESG implementers, they can create their profile and talk or list their services so that corporates can look at those services and hire them. Engage with them. And what we do as value add is ratings. So we accumulate the rating of the service provider, rating of the consultant, rating of the products like solar panels or windmill or which particular engineering manufacturing machine is more ESG suitable or less carbon footprint that way. So that's about Corpstage platform. I'll not take much of your time. That's in brief. I wanted to tell that it's a SaaS-based platform where 4 users can log in, individual users to learn, to know more about ESG, what companies are doing, they can learn. Service providers can list their services. Corporates can manage their ESG overall initiatives and make it automatic reporting possible. Automatic dashboards can be seen by any individual without paying. Today, if you go to MSCI Sustainalytics, only investors who pay, they get the information about the company. But on our platform, it's available for free. So that's corporates can manage the ESG, and above all, investors who have invested in sustainable companies, they can track their indicators and see what their investments have done in terms of impact. So you can actively track information. Okay, that's about the 4 users that we have on the platform. So we call ourselves Corpstage is an ecosystem of sustainability. That's where we are. So that's the online platform, but in addition to that, and I'm very passionate about this event. So really, I always say that I'm not an event organizer. So yes, but it's really, I like to do in terms of sharing information and creating an ecosystem and engaging with multiple stakeholders. So Corpstage follows 6 frameworks, 6 E's of ESG. ESG Edge is for knowledge and capacity building. So we spoke, the first session we had today was board mindset and leadership from Hellebank. So we also start our consulting, our offline consulting, or if you talk about the platform, usage, It starts with the board mindset, board workshops, board surveys, and board questionnaires. That's about ESG. Then it goes to top management and middle level management capacity building. ESG Ensure is about assessment. So we, on the platform also, we provide self-assessment. So corporates, like students, when they enter a new course or class, they get to do self-assessment to see where they stand. That's what we provide for. So self-assessment questionnaires are there. They get scoring. And then they get to see what else they can do to improve in the journey. So we follow growth mindset. ESG Enable is about implementation of strategies. So we provide a library of initiatives, action initiatives, which corporates can choose from. If they have a problem of air pollution, what all things can they do? If they have a problem of water recycling, which they are wastewater, what can they do? So we accumulate that information in terms of project library, and they can gain from it. ESG Engage is about stakeholder engagement. The platform and our services, they provide for surveys. So we have surveys which companies can create. Today, companies have to hire a third-party service provider to do employee survey, customer survey, supplier due diligence survey for scope 3, all those things. They can create those surveys on the platform using communities and so on. So it's really a big ecosystem, and that's what we do in our framework, offline consulting as well. Extend is about collaborations. This is what we do. Creating event like this enables collaboration. So the theme of today's event is also collective intelligence and collaborations. Extend stands for collaborations. We enable collaborations round through the year, not only at the event, but round through the year. And then Elevate is about elevating the company with financial and non-financial outcomes. So when today morning we were talking about ROIs and profitability, like Dr. Tiraj talked about social profitability, economic profit, environmental profitability, and so on. At a very early stage on the platform and in our consulting, what we do is we tell corporates, identify what you are going to achieve in terms of strategy and in terms of finance. For some initiatives, it may be possible that strategy is more important, because that strategy may reduce your negative reputation, right? Negative or reputation loss. Maybe you are losing money, but it's preventing your shareholders' wealth from the reputation. So strategic ROI and financial ROI, both can be calculated, and both are focused in our approach. So that's the 6 E's approach framework that Corpstage has, and this is like the detail of that. So our services overall, SaaS-based ESG management and ecosystem. We provide certifications and grit awards that we are going to have this tonight. Carbon consulting and offsets. So today morning we had Pathon. I'm not sure if he's around still. He's from Hedera. And on Hedera, there's a guardian system. Actually, because Pathon is from the tech team, we are actually working with the sustainability team of Hedera, and we, Corpstage, are a part of Guardian ecosystem. Now, what does Guardian ecosystem does? There are many projects which have carbon offsets available. Now, there is a lot of supply of carbon offsets, but there is no demand. Demand is there, but matching of those offsets with the companies is slightly difficult. Especially with every country has their own regulations and so on. So with the Guardian ecosystem, it becomes possible because all the buyers and the suppliers are all there on the ecosystem, and it helps. So we are part of the Hedera's Guardian ecosystem for the carbon consulting and the offsets availability. And we also do capacity building, like training programs and so on. So this is a glimpse of the profile of projects and companies. If you see, by looking at a LinkedIn post, imagine if you can see a post can show you which SDG the project is focused on, and who are the collaborators on this project and who are the contributors. So one of the important thing in ESG is also incentivization. You need to incentivize people, to motivate people, empower people to do good stuff. Now, a company like Coca-Cola launching recycling projects, How many of us are motivated to recycle the bottles that we use? We need to we need to be motivated. So we have a cup, if you see on the top, yellow portion where I can see it's 100% or something is written. 85 by 100, those are Corpstage coins. So individuals who collaborate on the project, they earn coins. I mean, they are incentivized by earning those coins. Now, these coins can be spent on buying sustainable product, getting sustainable services at a discount rate, enrolling yourself in sustainable courses. Like Maria, she has collaborated for discount. Those who have 100 coins of Corpstage get 10% discount on Maria's courses. I'm just kidding. That's not the thing. But I'm giving an example like that. So, yeah, so that's the Corpstage coin used for on the platform. And of course, the smart assessments is self-assessment based on the framework. Grit Awards. I explained in the afternoon before we broke out, GRIT Award stands for Sustainable Growth with Resilience, with Intention, Innovation, leading to transformation. That's the, if we do not recognize good work that you all are putting in, how will we take initiatives forward? So for scaling, recognition is important. But there's a lot of greenwashing happening in this area. So we take efforts in standing ourselves for establishing our credibility, making it transparent process. We have a governing council where Mr. Henry Wong, Ms. Irena, and Ms. Maria Pujo, they are a part of our governing council where, the award process is very stringent in the sense, when we went for pre-grit for the Balkan region, we were told only 2 companies to be selected. It's a hard competition. Only 2. Nobody else, even if they are doing good work. That's what we follow. So each company goes to 2 jurors, and then we receive the comments. And this year, we got excellent companies, but 2 or 3 who were shortlisted had to be downgraded because of the jurors' comments. And they were very straightforward and strict. And we discussed that with the companies, and we said, you still get the award, but this is what we got from the juror. Maybe, you will get in the main category next time. Yeah. So this is this is from the last year event we had. We recognize also, we help and recognize the tribal communities, indigenous communities, because we feel that they are closer to the forest and they are the ones who will be taking care of our climate actions. How it helped? One of these chief sustainability officer was sitting here. She was inspired to see the project, the indigenous community project, and she reached out to me. She said she wants to help. These women, if you see on the top left corner, they came to Singapore without even sitting on bus. The first time they sat on any mode of transport was the aeroplane. They came to Singapore from the jungles. And the entire village saw our program. And the chief sustainability officer, she actually donated some laptops, and she also launched the skill development program for these women, which really inspired their children more than the mothers. So that's the impact of this event, I would say. More such stories I have regarding the event. I'll not take much time. These are our credentials. We got the top 10 consulting firms by Asia Business Outlook. And we have performed 1,000+ assessments in SDGs. We have presence in 10+ countries through our country partners. Some of the partners are, we have here, in the morning we had Mr. Gane Ramachandra. We have Dr. Ramesh Ramachandra from Vietnam. We have Maria, we have Hiran De Silva from Australia, and so on. So we have our partners in different countries. And overall, our team has got more than 100 years of experience in this field. This is the framework. These are the indicators which are being used for evaluation. And we have a transparent process which goes to the jury. We straight download the survey questionnaires, and that goes to the jury. So these are the places that we have our partners. I would not call them, I mean, couple of places we have offices, but most of them are partners. We are not that big. We are young. We are just 2 years old. So yes, our ambition is to keep growing. While that was not a marketing presentation, that was something which I wanted to tell you who we are. Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy the first course of talk.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy the first course of the meal. pleasure, I now introduce our first keynote speaker for the evening, Dr. Paul Tasner, who will be joining us virtually. Dr. Tasner is a prescient entrepreneur and the co-founder and CEO of Pulpworks, a company at the forefront of sustainable packaging solutions. We are eager to hear his keynote address on how Pulpworks champions the ESG cause to make an impactful difference.
Hello, Dr. Tasner, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Great, great to see you. Thank you very much. Good morning to you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, I don't use.
the stage is yours. Yes, please.
And the screen is very big, I see.
You deserve it.
And
Thank you.
and it looks like I'm competing with dinner also.
Yeah. We have a sitting dinner here
Well,
today, so yeah.
that's lovely. Well, I'll try to keep my remarks brief so that everyone can enjoy their dinner,
Okay,
and
please.
I'll try not to upset anyone.
No way. Yeah. Thank you. Over to
Thank
you.
you. Thank you very much. It's truly an honor to be here today, and I thank you so much for this privilege. Um, my assigned topic, theme was my sustainable entrepreneurship journey, and I'll take you through that journey and the challenges. The learnings and the surprises that I encountered during that journey, and I hope it's a valuable story to those in the audience. So thank you for listening. A quick review of my background. My education was in engineering and mathematics a long time ago. My employment history was primarily in manufacturing and packaging, and mostly in the consumer goods category. And I worked over 40 years in that industry, always working for others, working for companies large and small along my journey. And then in around Christmas in 2009, I was fired from my last job. It's first time in my life that I'd been fired. I was among several other people let go at the same time. That didn't really make it any easier, but I found myself at a crossroads. Retirement, although I was 64 years old at that time, retirement wasn't an option. It wasn't an option emotionally, and it wasn't an option economically, frankly. And so I stumbled around, admittedly, for a couple of years, going down a number of paths and finding nothing really that excited me. And I wanted to be excited. I realized that this could very well be my last hurrah, so to speak. And I wanted to be excited about what I was doing. But about 2 years into this journey, I stumbled on an idea that really resonated with me, and also aligned with my background in packaging for these many years. And I launched the business that I have today called Pulpworks. And briefly put, we design and manufacture biodegradable and recyclable packaging entirely from waste, primarily agricultural waste. We use sugarcane bagasse, we use bamboo waste, wheat, rice, even cotton waste. And our objective, of course, was to replace the toxic disposable plastic packaging to which we've all become addicted. So I believe this would have been called clean technology. And we felt really good to be involved in an endeavor such as this. Then I'm faced with my next steps, raising capital. Do I self-manufacture? Do I outsource the manufacturing? Creating jobs, intellectual property. We had developed some intellectual property that we hoped would be useful. These are questions facing really any entrepreneur, but for me, these were first-time questions. So fast forward so that you can enjoy your meal. It's 12 years later now, and I'm proud to tell you that our business has grown each year. We have several marquee clients across North America, Europe, and Asia. Our intellectual property was indeed our patents were issued for the intellectual property that we had. And I'm proud to say we've won numerous awards for the work that we've done. But most importantly, we're making a small dent in the worldwide plastic pollution crisis. And that gives me a great deal of satisfaction. No, we were not able to raise sufficient capital to build our own manufacturing facility. So we outsourced our manufacturing requirements to partners in Asia, well known to me during my previous 40 years in the industry. These partnerships have been absolutely superb, but we don't have the same control of our destiny that comes from self-manufacture. In fact, just as an anecdote, one of my partners that I've known for many years, predating the launching of Pulpworks, recognizing the challenges that we would have as a first-time entrepreneur, as a new business, in a, shall we say, an emerging industry of compostable and biodegradable packaging. This partner told me that we could pay them after we were paid by our customers, which is virtually unheard of from suppliers. But they trusted us, and we repaid them by meeting their trust fully. And they, as I said, they are our partners still today, and I wouldn't dream of changing that. So, challenges. Why were we unable to raise capital? Well, there were a number of reasons. I was a first-time entrepreneur, so I didn't have a track record, but I did have over 40 years of experience in my chosen industry. But I think I have to say that the primary challenge for raising capital was my age. Some investors were very diplomatic about their lack of interest. Some were quite crass, and basically told me I was wasting my time. I really had never experienced ageism before in that regard, and this was a horrible time to experience it for the first time when I needed to raise money. It was very upsetting. I learned later, I gave a TED talk back in 2017 about this very journey that I'm sharing with you today. And doing research for my talk, I learned that the success rate for older entrepreneurs, senior entrepreneurs such as myself, is 70%. We have a 70% success rate launching new businesses. That's absolutely crazy. I mean, young entrepreneurs, 20 somethings and 30 somethings, their success rate is in the 20s, I think 28% or something. So we are a good bet because of our age. We are a very good bet. And someone who would have bet on Pulpworks back then would be hopefully reaping those rewards today. And, but such is life. What did we learn from this? Well, I was certainly biased in favor of doing this by your bootstraps and avoiding investors if one can. I mean, I recognize I was extremely fortunate in the circumstances of having a ready relationship with important suppliers, but doing it by your own bootstraps has so many advantages as well as liabilities. I know. Finding a partner, I found, and I did have a partner in the early days. Finding a suitable business partner is really important. Somebody that you can really share the joys, the defeats. It means a lot to be able to not be hanging out there on your own. And by all means, try to grow a business that's built on your experience. I think it's fantastic if in your later years you decide that 40 years in electrical engineering is quite enough, and now you want to build guitars. By all means, more power to you. But if you can build on your own experience, if you can build on those 40 years of engineering experience, it makes an enormous difference in your possibilities for success going forward. Some surprises that I wanted to share with you. Speaking of ageism, and frankly, ageism became kind of an equal passion of mine after facing it as I did. And I've talked about it in a number of venues in the years since, and I am quite passionate about the horrors or the errors of ageism. But I have to say that once I established my business, there was no hint of ageism in the marketplace, from my suppliers, certainly from colleagues, and certainly from customers. Customers could care less about my age. All they cared about was quality, service, and price, and rightly so. Those were the important things. Whether I was 66 or 36, it made no difference to them. If I couldn't deliver a quality product on time to them, it wouldn't have mattered how old I was. And so, that was a delightful surprise that ageism no longer reared its ugly head once my business was launched and rolling ahead. So if you've done the math, I'm 77 years old now, and this is indeed the most rewarding and challenging work of my life. Absolutely, without equal. I had some marvelous jobs along the way, but nothing can compare to this work that I've been doing. And as a postscript, in a way of coming kind of full circle, we are indeed going to be doing some self-manufacturing in a very specific area. We're going to be developing a manufacturing capability in North Africa. We're going to be using locally grown sugarcane waste and converting that into sustainable food service items, plates, cups, bowls, and any other kind of disposable item like that, to replace the non-sustainable plastic in those areas. Sub-Saharan West Africa suffers from plastic pollution just as bad as any other location on Earth. And ours is a partnership between ourselves and the United Nations and local government. And we do hope to make a dent in the plastic pollution crisis that's afflicting that part of the world. And that gives me just an enormous amount of pride. So I'll close on those upbeat remarks, and I'd love to take any questions if that's permissible, and if you find yourselves between the dinner course and the dessert course, and care to ask any. So thank you very much for your time and your attention. Thank you.
For Dr. Paul Tasner? Yes, we have. We have a question for you.
Great. Great. I love questions.
Okay.
Hi, Dr. Paul. My question is
Hi.
related to this sugarcane. So once everyone is talking about converting this kind of vegetables or some kind of you can say the byproduct of the vegetables into sustainable kind of solutions like the plates or this kind of things, the cutlery. My question is, are we expecting that there will be a stage when we will start we will start thinking about the commercial aspect of these vegetables or these plants and trees. And during that time, we will be facing the food shortage. A recent example like biofuel. So are we expecting such thing, or what is the strategy just to overcome that kind of a fear which I'm having in my mind? Thank you.
It's a good question. And I get, I can tell from your question that you're familiar with the uses of sugarcane bagasse as a or sugarcane, I should say, as an important ingredient in the development of biofuels. I don't honestly, I don't know whether that's a viable fear. If I think the sugarcane growers that are contributing to the biofuels industry have been doing that for many years, and those that we work with. Remember, we work with the waste. We don't work with the with the plant itself. Those that do contribute to the biofuel industry, they are dedicated to that industry. They grow their cane for that reason. They sell their cane to that industry. I think they do. I think they make sufficient profit from that they're not tempted. They're not tempted to convert their business to one in which sustainable packaging is involved. I think we would have seen evidence. We've worked with a number of suppliers in different parts of the globe, and I think we would have seen some evidence or some hint of that already. But as you say, perhaps the future is where we'll begin to see that. I don't know how to predict that. All I can say is that it hasn't been a concern that we've worked into our business currently, that we need to shelter ourselves against that with our current supply chain. I know that's probably not a great answer for you, but it was an excellent question, and it deserved a better answer.
That's okay. We will connect you, and we can follow up on that discussion.
Sure.
And there's another questions.
Thank you, Dr. Tasner. looking at you, it's like looking in the mirror.
Well,
We're of a similar age. We both have beards. We both wear glasses. Skin color is somewhat different. And we both produce cellulose pulp from plant waste. So,
excellent.
I'd love to sit and talk to you more about that. We've just launched a cellulose operation from rice straw to stop the burning in the fields. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. I have to say we've only used rice straw once over the years, and it just hasn't been an opportunity that's made itself available to us. But I understand from others that it does produce a good finished product. And that's great to hear. That's great to hear. May I ask where you are doing that?
In the north of Thailand, in Chiang Rai.
Ah, okay, okay, excellent. Well, congratulations to you, and let's be sure to connect after this lovely conference.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tasner, for your open and honest sharing. I think one thing, I just watched your TED Talk, and I'm not sure if everybody know, but this amazing, inspiring, courageous entrepreneur started his journey at the age of 66. And since then has gotten into passion and have the most rewarding reward. Thank you so much. Hope to
My
see you
pleasure.
next year.
Thank you. Yes. Goodbye, everyone.
Now for the part we all have been eagerly waiting for, the Grit Awards. Drum rolls. So first up, we have the main category awards. First is ESG Trailblazer. This coveted award is given to large listed companies that have set exemplary standards and made tremendous strides in their ESG journey. The winner of this ESG Trailblazer is a company which has set new standards in the industry with their innovative approaches, sustainable practices, and commitment to ESG principles. An excellent visionary and the perfect paradigm, inspiring numerous others to follow their vision. Please welcome A1 Telcom. Unfortunately,
So A1 is online. I think Andrea is online.
they cannot be here, but they can join us virtually. Thank you, Maria.
Oh,
I would like to invite
Miss,
Actually, I'm looking for Mr. Joe McDonald. He's not here. Okay, so I would like to invite Dr. Vin Alice to hand over the award to A1 Telecom. That's ESG Trailblazers Award goes to A1, and Maria will collect the award on their behalf.
Next, we have the ESG Changemakers Award. This category is for changemakers who are helping other organizations to implement and follow ESG strategies. This year we have a tie, so we have two awardees. The first one is the winner for the first one is Singapore Analytics, which is a tech and data enabling platform for their impactful sustainable change and positive transformation. And I would like to invite Mr. JG to the stage, please. SG Analytics. Please. And for the next award winner for ESG Changemakers, we have SEC Philippines for their involvement in promoting of sustainable finance in Philippines, addressing climate change and other ESG risks. We would like to invite the SEC Philippines to the stage, please, and I would like to invite Mr. Luca Bernardinetti to hand out the award. SEC Philippines, are you? Everyone is really, really shy tonight. Okay, a round of applause, everybody. Apologize for the technical issues. Next, we have the video from SEC Philippines. It's actually from
gathering of leaders, experts, and influencers driving positive change through ESG practices. Now, I wish I were able to attend this event in person. However, I'm currently attending a series of roadshows as part of our capital market building efforts here in the Philippines. Instead, my good friend Mr. Charion Hirung Kratul is there in Bangkok to receive the award on my behalf. Now, as a quick background of my work at the Securities and Exchange Commission of the Philippines, we are the business registrar and the national security. Good evening, everyone. I'm honored to receive the ESG Changemakers Award for 2023. It is also a distinct honor for me to be part of this global gathering of leaders, experts, and influencers driving positive change through ESG practices. Now, I wish I were able to attend this event in person. However, I'm currently attending a series of roadshows as part of our capital market building efforts here in the Philippines. Instead, my good friend Mr. Charion Hirung Kratul is there in Bangkok to receive the award on my behalf. Now, as a quick background of my work at the Securities and Exchange Commission of the Philippines, we are the business registrar and the national securities and capital market regulator, which makes us unique as we carry out two dual functions for the Philippine corporate sector. As commissioner, I directly oversee key regulatory functions of the SEC, such as markets and securities regulation, sustainable finance, information and financial technology, and international affairs. And it is in this capacity as one of the primary regulators of sustainable finance that I'm in front of you today receiving this prestigious award. The Philippines, due to its location and geography, faces very high risks due to climate change. It is critical for us to make sure that the Philippines is able to navigate a sustainable path towards growth. We at the SEC continue to be at the forefront of creating an enabling environment for sustainable finance with the issuance of our own guidelines on the issuances of green, social, and sustainable bonds, and sustainability-linked bonds, and sustainable and responsible investment funds, to name just a few. Without a doubt, the success of sustainable finance in the country not only benefits the top corporations and investors, but it impacts the whole society as well. On my part, it is for this reason that I proudly wear my sustainable finance hats. As a SEC Commissioner, as Philippine representative to various regional agencies and work groups, such as the ASEAN Capital Market Forum, the ASEAN Taxonomy Board, and the Green Bond Council, among others. I sincerely endeavor to contribute to change the Philippine capital market through proper regulation, sustainable finance, and digitalization efforts. I thank the ESG World Summit and GRIT Awards for recognizing the SEC's commitments and effort and our work towards sustainable finance. I share this honor with SEC Chairperson Emilio Aquino, my fellow commissioners, and our distinguished directors, colleagues, and SEC staff for their continued dedication and commitment to our mandate. I would also like to recognize and thank my family for their unending love and support. Thank you to my mother, Helen, my father-in-law, Eddie, my mother-in-law, Juliet, my wife, Dorothy Bangayan Lee, the real boss, and my two daughters, Izzy and Hope. It is because of them that I am inspired every day to do my best and to create positive change where I can. The author and philosopher Grace Lee Boggs once said that every crisis, actual or impending, needs to be viewed as an opportunity to bring about profound changes in our society. Indeed, the need for sustainable finance transcends even beyond the capital or financial markets. It's therefore a privilege and an honor for me to receive this ESG Changemakers Award. Thank you very much, everyone. God bless you all.
Let's now welcome Miss Andrea Bonime-Blanc, virtually all the way from New York, to shed light on ESG megatrends. Ms. Blanc is the founder of the CEO of GC Risk Advisory, and also she's an author of many books. Thank you for waiting, Ms. Andrea.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And greetings from New York City, excuse me, and congratulations to all of the winners and the nominees, as well as to the organizers. Thank you for inviting me. I'm going to give you a very big picture whirlwind review of what I call the ESG plus T for technology megatrends. Every year I put together an analysis of what I think the most important large global trends are that each of us as sustainability professionals, leaders in government and business and society need to think about because it impacts our day-to-day work. So I'm going to share a PowerPoint presentation with you. which has a lot of visuals and a lot of graphics. And the organizers have agreed to make this PowerPoint available to you. So do not fear if I go too fast because I only have a few minutes. You can always look again at the PowerPoint deck, and you can also access the new manual that has just been published, which I will be talking about through my presentation. So let me get my presentation up. And let's make sure everything is visible to you. Okay. I assume it's visible because I see it in the little window. So hopefully you see this, and let me get started. So as I mentioned to you, every year I do a study of these 5 big megatrends, and they are in 5 different categories. One is about tech disruption. Another one is about complex interconnected risk. Another one is about the geopolitical tectonics that we're all experiencing globally. A fourth one is about leadership trust, which is so fundamental to everything we do. And then finally, there's one that is about the future of capitalism. Where are we going? ESG is really important in this discussion. So you will see some of the details as we go through. For this year, each year I look at those 5 big categories and I give it a slightly different interpretation because the world is changing every day, every minute in some cases. And we need to sort of keep up with all of these trends and mega trends and changes in order to do better decision making on each of our parts. So this year I chose also a priority. My number 1 mega trend for this year was in the tech governance space, because all of you know, with generative AI, with ChatGPT and everything else that's happening, there's an explosion of new opportunity and risk when it comes to technology. And the way I've described that is to say that exponential tech is defying governability. And while exponential tech is incredibly important for opportunity, we also need to find guardrails. And this is really important also in the sustainability field, in the climate field, where we have amazing opportunity to make changes, but we need to do them in such a way that we're not using false data, we're not using other kinds of inputs that will hurt our analysis and or the safety of our stakeholders. The second one I call complex socio-ecological risk rising. And I'll give you some details about that, but this is all about climate, biodiversity, and impacts on society. My third one I call geopolitical tectonic shifts crystallizing. And what I mean by that is we've had big global trends taking place over the last decades, of course, but in the last few years, we've had a rearrangement of how the world looks from a big power standpoint, interrelations. We've had the Ukraine war. We've had a few other things that are moving things in a different direction. My 4th megatrend is leadership trust at an inflection. And what I mean by that is we really need to trust our leaders in this very challenging, changing environment. And when you have the wrong leaders in charge, whether it's in government or business or society, it has reverberations for all of us. So it's really important to build that trust. And then finally, ESG polemics redefining capitalism. And as I'm sure many of you who follow this space know, we've had a really polarized, sort of difficult discussion about ESG in the United States. It's become a political issue, a political football, if you want to call it that. But to me, that is the noise, not the signal. The signal is that we are all moving towards a more sustainable kind of capitalism, stakeholder capitalism. So let me go into the details of each of these a little bit more. In terms of the tech disruption, all of you know AI has suddenly become the most talked about technology, the most impactful, the most disruptive. And AI has been around for quite a while, especially the last 50 years or so, but it's only in the last even 6 months since ChatGPT was released into the wild, so to speak, and we've seen all these other types of generative AI, large language models, et cetera. Suddenly we have capabilities that we couldn't even dream of a couple of years ago. And that brings both opportunity to make amazing change, including in climate tech, including in all kinds of other ESG kinds of areas. But it also brings a really big responsibility. I wrote a piece recently called "With Exponential Tech Comes Exponential Responsibility." So that's kind of my message to leaders, both in government, in business, and in society. And here you see one of the reasons why this is so important. These are all images created by AI. We will not be able to distinguish fact from fake anymore. And one of the big dangers is that we won't know if something is true or not. We won't know if something is real or not. And the whole misinformation, disinformation space is going to get way worse. And one of the big burdens that I think we have as societies is to help stakeholders discern what is real from what is fake. And that's going to be quite a challenge. And this is where I think the opportunity comes in to build digital trust, both within each of your companies, but also in terms of the supply chain, in terms of software, in terms of the data goes into the algorithms, et cetera. And so there's a model here that the World Economic Forum put together where they suggest that security and reliability methodologies need to be developed, accountability and oversight. For example, boards of directors need to be much more engaged and knowledgeable. And then having a more inclusive, ethical, and responsible use. Inclusive, not exclusive, diverse, not undiverse, etc. So we need to have fairness principles, we need to have interoperability principles, and safety principles. Going to the second megatrend, what I call this megatrend this year is the complex socio-ecological risk rising. It is my view, and I think it's borne out by reality, that we have big risks in the world today, and they're all interconnected. COVID was certainly a really big example of that. The biodiversity piece, the climate piece, affecting biodiversity, affecting people who then are in contact with animals that carry viruses, which is one theory about COVID. But there are other diseases that come from animals to people, and it's because we've been destroying forests and destroying their habitat, and then we get their diseases, we're not prepared, then we have a big pandemic. So these climate, biodiversity, and society issues are all deeply interconnected. Here you have a slide from the World Economic Forum Global Risks Report that comes out every year, which is a really great, very big picture review of 5 big categories of risk. Economic in blue, which you don't see on this page, environmental in green, which you see a ton of risks in green, geopolitical is in orange, you see a couple, societal is in red, you see quite a few, and then technological in purple, and that's mostly focused on cybersecurity and cyber insecurity. But what these 2 columns represent is the 2-year outlook and the 10-year outlook, based on the study that the World Economic Forum has done on global risks, looking at the expert opinion of more than 2,000 professionals, and then a lot of data coming in. And this is what they foresee for the next 2 and 10 years. And you can see a sea of green, meaning environmental, climate issues, really biodiversity issues, really being central to the highest risks that we face going forward. And this also presents opportunity, especially for the climate tech industry, and also for many of your types of industries where you can convert, create renewable energy opportunities. I just heard about the pulp conversion. These are all things that create enormous opportunity for doing better in the climate space and also societally. Here you see a chart that's very depressing and upsetting for those of us who cherish nature and biodiversity. The number of endangered species is rising every single year and very dramatically. And so this is an area where companies have not spent enough and paid enough attention. But I think this is now becoming a much more central issue, because we realize that the deprivation of biodiversity really affects the entire global ecosystem and our life on Earth, basically. And then finally, in this triangle, the socio-ecological triangle, is the social piece. And I've just highlighted one issue in many issues that we have societally, globally. And this is the issue of modern day slavery, which has become more important in terms of corporate supply chains and that kind of analysis and due diligence and some regulations that are coming out. So that's good, but the state of modern day slavery is terrible. It's increased over the last few years. There's about 50 million people worldwide who are categorizable as modern day slaves. This is just a terrible situation that is also interconnected with climate issues, involuntary migration, people having to leave places because they're no longer habitable, et cetera, et cetera. My third megatrend is the geopolitical tectonics crystallizing. So these shifts have been taking place for the last couple of decades, but we're now in a world where, for example, this map shows you the 2/3 of the world's population live in countries that are neutral or Russia leaning regarding the war in Ukraine. And, you know, while on the one hand, from a geopolitical tectonic standpoint, the Russian invasion of Ukraine clarified some of the EU, NATO, and North American relationships, bringing them closer together in support of Ukraine. It has also demonstrated that there's more divisions and different blocks of countries around the world that will not necessarily follow in lockstep with the first world, let's say. And so this is a very stark representation of that, but there are many other geopolitical tectonic shifts taking place. There's global South, global North discussion, there's China, US, and there are numerous other things that we could talk about that are demonstrating a world that is more complex and confusing than it was certainly, you know, many years ago under the Cold War, where it was very clear, black and white, East and West, that kind of thing. So that's part of the tectonic shifts. Another part of it is that democracies overall around the world have been in decline for a very long time. There's a small silver lining, as the 21 to 22 part of this graph shows you, that maybe democracies have stopped declining and we are starting to see a slight improvement. Speaking as someone who lives in the United States, we've had incredible challenges here from a polarization standpoint, from a democracy standpoint. You just saw the former president here being indicted criminally. You just saw Boris Johnson of the UK basically resign in disgrace from the UK Parliament. You see democracies sort of maybe starting to hold people accountable, and that goes to my leadership trust issue as well. And here you see the last piece on the geopolitical tectonic shifts. It affects us both at the global and the national level, but also at the corporate and organizational level. And here, for example, is just a snapshot of what happened when Russia invaded Ukraine. There was this enormous reaction by companies, global companies, and others who are holding them accountable to say, get out of Russia, support Ukraine. There were all kinds of lobbying efforts, but this is something new and different, and it affects the day-to-day of businesses, of companies. And if you're in a supply chain of a company that left Russia, but you're still in Russia, or, you know,
Hello?
Yes? Anyway, any other formulation that you can think of, you are under pressure as an organization, as a company, to think about these things in your day-to-day work. Megatrend number 4 is the issue of leadership trust, which I mentioned a couple of times already. This is an Edelman Trust Barometer, which comes out every year, which looks at 4 different organizational types: business, NGOs, government, and media. And they've been tracking this for about 20 years. And in the last 3 years, they've found that the business model, or the business organization, has more competency and is more ethical as considered by stakeholders worldwide than any of the others. The NGOs are considered ethical, but not terribly competent. And both media and government are considered neither ethical nor competent. This is based on about 24 countries in which they survey many stakeholders. So it's just an interesting snapshot that says that business seems to be doing a little better. I think a lot of the climate and sustainability activity is certainly propping that up. But it also could be a little bit smoke and mirrors, in the sense that business does a better job of marketing itself to the world. But I think there's some real truth there too. My work revolves a lot around leadership and how leaders need to take on these issues, the ESG plus technology issues. And I have a typology I've developed for years now where I talk about 4 different levels of leadership when it comes to how they deal in their strategy, in their risk management, in their governance with ESG plus technology issues. And if you start at the bottom, the irresponsible leader is the leader who doesn't care about these issues, is either intentionally against it or negligent about it, but does not care about those issues until maybe they hit them in the face with a scandal. The superficial leader is really the greenwasher. It's the leader that has a nice website, some nice printed materials, but they're not really doing this for real. They're doing it as a PR or marketing effort. The top 2, the responsible leader and the enlightened leader, are the ones that are doing the work that we're all talking about in this conference. The change, the sustainable value, the tone from the top, providing resources, being responsible. And so the enlightened leader distinguishes him or herself in this sense that that company goes beyond the call of duty to actually creating sustainable products, putting their money where their mouth is, pretty much. So this is an interesting way of looking at it. I've done some analyses of some different leaders and their companies. This is based on work that the Just Capital, which is an NGO in the US, does, looking at the top 800 publicly traded companies in the US. And you can see the spectrum of leadership in terms of how well they are regarded on stakeholder issues. The top 2 are Microsoft and Alphabet. Apple is pretty much up there. And then you start going down the hill with Amazon, Tesla, and Meta. And then finally, the future of capitalism is my last mega trend. And here, I just want to say something very simple, which is that we have ESG polemics. We have polarization, certainly here in the US. It might spill over into some other parts of the world. But to me, this is the noise. The signal is that we are moving towards sustainability. We are moving towards, more stakeholder capitalism, maybe regenerative capitalism. We don't exactly know where we're going, but this series of megatrends like climate change and societal issues and biodiversity issues and geopolitical issues is pushing us in the direction of having to be more responsible about our environment. And that means for business, being more responsible towards stakeholders and the environment that we live in. And then here is just an interesting chart. You can look at this at your leisure in the future, but it basically looks at capitalism as to where is it going. And I have two criteria looking at that. One is, who are the primary beneficiaries of your corporation or company? Is it just the shareholder? Is it a selection of stakeholders? Or is it a much broader group of people, mainly the planet? And then looking also at purpose and profit. Is it profit only? Is it profit and purpose? Or is it purpose first and a more long-term outlook? So you can look at that at your leisure. Here's the access to the ebook where you can read all the details. And all I can say is I'm extremely grateful to have been here. Sorry, it's a quick, fast overview of some very big topics, but I hope it has been useful for some perspective and also to spark some ideas and some thoughts. So let me lower my presentation, and if there's any question or comment, I would be happy to stick around.
Thank you, Miss Andrea. I think it's very clear, it's very urgent. All of us have the urgency to be more responsible in our next investment and collaborate for the sustainable future, if we want to have one. Thank you. And Dr. Nisha you shared a link on your newsletter, which she will share it on to everybody later. And next, we actually have another speaker, Dr. Katia Chaban. She's also from New York, but have been kind to travel all the way here to grace her presence. Dr. Katia Chaban is an award-winning global leader with 27 years of diverse experience working with Fortune 500 companies implementing transformative initiatives. Her mission to harness the power of people and technology to enable sustainable innovation so that business people and planet can thrive lead her to the founder rethink strategies. Dr. Chaban will now just completed her DBA from Columbia and will share some of her insights from her research findings. Dr. Chaban.
So I'm kind of in a hard spot here. You're waiting for your second course, and we've had some incredible presentations. But when Dr. Nisha asked me to share my research, I thought, how can I make this interesting to a global community in 10 minutes or less of 16 months of effort, and I'm going to try and make it personal for you. So we've talked a lot, we've seen geopolitical issues, we've talked a lot about what's happening in various regions, and some incredible new innovations that are going out there. And my research started because I went shoe shopping. So as many of you do, I went to buy running shoes, and I shop locally, and it's the owner of the store and I got talking, and I've known her for a while, and she says, hey, what are you doing? And I told her about focusing on business transformations and my new love for sustainability, and she looked at me and she said, hey, if you can solve the returns process problem, that would be fantastic. And I thought, what is she talking about, right? So, being the curious individual that I am, I thought, what's the big deal, right? So this one owner was talking to me about the amount of garbage that she has in the back storeroom and all of the returns challenges that she has to deal with. And I thought, well, all right, okay, this is a normal thing, right? We all buy things and we all return things. So when I started to look at the numbers, and this is US specifically, but for developed countries, I'm sure it would be similar from a process perspective. But in the US, and we're looking at 2022 kind of numbers, $14 trillion was spent on consumer goods and services, right? So this is a big industry. A lot of money gets spent on goods, products, and services. And then you start to think, wow, that's a lot. And so what does it look like from a retail perspective? And retail specifically, not food or whatnot, but the things that you buy, and I think we had a consumer product good conversation this morning, you know, you buy a different thing. It's $5 trillion plus in the US. Okay, so what? Well, then 16% of that $5+ trillion gets returned. So if you think about what does that mean? That means that $800+ billion worth of products that are purchased are returned. Okay, so what? Right? So now what's happening from a business perspective, but most importantly, what's happening from an ESG perspective, what's happening from a sustainability perspective. And those returned products, when you go back to the store and you take those running shoes back, or you've ordered things on Amazon that weren't in the right color or wasn't exactly what you thought it wanted to be. In the US, it's contributing annually to 6 billion pounds of waste. And of that waste, there's a significant percentage of those products that you've returned that are fine. They're workable. There's nothing wrong with them, but they just got thrown out because the retailers don't have the ability to figure out what to do with those products, and the easiest thing is to get rid of it. And it's a $650 billion impact from a business perspective, and from an emissions perspective, just the returns process alone, you're looking at about 16 million metric tons of carbon emissions. So what does this mean to us as consumers? So I thought, all right, how do I communicate this in a way? It means that we have to do something differently from a business perspective. And I thought, what is the framework for trying to figure out how do we change? Is that a consumer change? Is that a business change? What does that mean? And we heard a lot of discussion today about the circular economy or circular thinking or adding circularity. So just a reminder, the circular economy, right, most of this work comes from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. The butterfly diagram, if you know what that is, there's two wings. This is the technological ring. The other part of it is a biological wing. And what I want to make sure of is when people are talking about circularity, I hear a lot of words like recycling. And actually recycling is the last thing that we want to happen from a circularity perspective, right? We want to keep products in use for longer. That's one of the principles of the circular economy. It's to reduce waste and pollution, and most importantly, it's to improve our biodiversity. It's the regeneration of our natural products. So when I looked at trying to figure out how do I solve the returns process, I chose the circular economy, which then I fell in love with, if you can fall in love with an academic framework, and trying to understand how we can fix this process. And so I was lucky enough to be able to speak to a number of circular economy experts from around the world, not just in the US, but a number of different places, to try and actually talk about how do you fix the returns process itself. Because a lot of the literature, based on the desk research that I did, it's a challenge, right? There's barriers, companies won't change, and it was pretty depressing. So I wanted to talk to these experts specifically to figure out how do you fix this problem. And if you think about 130, 150 hours of transcripts and interviews, because this was qualitative inquiry, trying to figure out how to fix this problem, there was some key concepts that came out. And we've talked a lot about some of these things today. So in their first conversation around design, and I think we talked a little bit about life cycle analysis in some of the conversations, and it all starts with thinking differently about how you design your products, modularly, the materials that go into those products. There's improvements that have to be made in the reverse logistics process. How do you take those products back that the consumers want to return, because you can't get rid of a returns process. Talk about circular enablers within businesses that have to change, which is technology and leadership and values from a circular economy perspective, which is more than just the recycle, it's the reuse, the maintaining things for longer, and the supply chain. So how do you ensure that throughout the supply chain there's the circular thinking? And then most importantly, when we look at the dollars and cents associated with that specific business process, which then could apply to a number of business processes, it's business model disruption. And so we talked about how do you change the business models to be able to pay for things like the returns process. And there was a lot of discussion that these experts started to share around services, right? So instead of selling products anymore, you're starting to sell services, and take a look at how you change your various business model, your revenue streams. The last thing that I want to share with you in my quick less than 10 minutes of a lot of research and a lot more details were some of the quotes that were shared with me. Some of the barriers to change, and when you think about the returns process, but you think about changing the business models overall to circularity, it's dollars and cents, and it's the investment in making those changes that people don't want to make changes. And so if you don't want to focus on recycling that material today, knowing that it's not going to be there in the future, How are you going to think about your business, right? When those products or those materials are no longer available. And one of the interesting quotes when I was talking to folks about how we do improve the returns process itself was, you're asking the wrong question at the wrong time. It all goes back to the design. Collaboration, which we've talked a lot about today, with people in your business networks and outside your business networks. Going circular requires that internal collaboration, and what was also suggested a lot was your collaboration with your competitors that might still be on the same journey. I think this morning in the conversation, the fireside chat with Joe, we talked a little bit about industrial symbiosis, and you can't think about only what you do, but you have to think about what others might need as well from a recycling and a materials perspective. And then because I was disappointed in not finding the silver bullet answer to the returns problem, but got a lot of great strategies. So the project question I was trying to answer was, how do you fix this? And what are the strategies using the circular economy? What could you do? And there was a lot. So in my paper and in the research, there's a number of strategies that we uncovered. But there wasn't that silver bullet. Just like in implementing anything with ESG, there's not that silver bullet. And I think one of the key changes is consumer behavior. So wrapping it back to going to the store that day to buy shoes, and it's something that I think that we all do. How do businesses change to adapt to consumer behavior? Can you force consumers to change? Everybody in the room, can you change how you're buying things? Can you think more smartly about how you buy it so you don't have to return it? Can you think more smartly about not having to buy it? And that's all goes back to various consumption. And so it was an interesting research, and this is a lot of research in 8 minutes or less, so you can get to your second course. But it led to a lot more questions related to how we can change business models and business processes so that we as consumers don't really have to think about it, but we're treating the environment in a much better way than what we're seeing with the 6 billion tons of garbage that this one business process itself in the US causes every year. And it seems pretty benign because we all do it, but it's hugely impactful. So next time you go to buy a pair of running shoes, make sure they fit, make sure you like them so that you don't have to take them back. Next time you buy something online, make sure that's what you want. Think about the emissions associated with it and the waste that's probably being caused because we as businesses are not that smart in trying to deal with that specific business process. And if you're in the consumer goods industry itself, and you're looking at your overall ESG reporting, I want to make sure that everybody's looking at those profit and waste leakage areas throughout the entire business model, including the returns, so that we're not missing important parts of the business that have to change, so that we're treating our planet a lot better, and we will have the planet here as a sustainable future and be able to grow for our next generation. So that's it, really quickly. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Ms. Andrea, for that very informative and enlightening speech. Now we'll have a second course. And during the second course, next to take our breath away is a mesmerizing Krista Phil-Nihan dance performance. This is a magnificent Thai dance performed on significant occasions to lyrics intended to bless the distinguished guests. This performance includes holding a flower tray and sprinkling flowers. The performers will be dressed up as angels and fairies in order to bring blessings in accordance with Thai belief. Let's put our hands together to welcome the performers.
องค์อับซ้อนอมรแม่
next dance, all the guests are welcome to join the dancers. guests want to have a picture with the dancers, they're welcome to come to the stage. that dance. We now have the next category of awards, the SDG Awards. Firstly, we have the Best SDG Impact for Goal 2, Achieving Zero Hunger, being awarded to IFFCO for their contribution in the development of food security and the field of low carbon emission dietary options for the Gulf region. Their creative approaches and significant strides have transformed our food system and made it fit for current and future challenges. I would like to request Mr. Ganesh Pangare to please come up on stage to commemorate the awardee. Ifko, please come on the stage. Congratulations! Now, the Best Social Developmental Goal Impact Award is for Goal 3, Good Health and Well-Being, and Goal 13, Climate Action. Can we please welcome Just Breathe? They're being given this award because they've established an achievement in employee health and well-being and work towards reduction of chemicals and air pollution. They are committed to address climate challenges and promote well-being to create a sustainable future. I would like to welcome Dr. Thiraj to please hand the award. Dr. Thiraj and Just Breathe. Dr. Thiraj is not here. Mr. Sandeep, could you please come on the stage to give the award?
Thank you so much, all of you, and thank you so much, Nisha. I would like to put across just in a single line that what I totally believe is great results. They say, the people generally says that great results comes with sometimes with a great opportunities, but I don't agree with that. I do agree with great results comes with a consistent efforts, and that consistent effort has to be taken right now, and just that action makes that impact. Thank you.
Now, for Best SDG Impact, Goal 7, Affordable and Clean Energy, the winner is Kapla Motors, being awarded for increasing access to affordable, modern and sustainable alternatives and their innovative energy-based mobility solution. Mr. Paddy, Dr. Paddy, please come on the stage to hand over the award. Mr. Paddy and Kapla Motors, please come on the stage. Congratulations.
I actually didn't prepare for a speech today. Didn't expect the award. Our business started back in 2006, and it was a humble operation where we wanted to make a change in Sri Lanka. So we started off with, my father actually started the business. He started modeling the prototypes and went through a lot of red tape in Sri Lanka, as you might have known. It's a developing country, but to be recognized at an international level, to be global, and now we currently export to Maldives. That's the first export that we started. And we are planning to export to Australia and to globalize our brand. So thank you, Dr. Nisha. Thank you, Corpstage. And it was a wonderful experience. Thank you.
Now, for Best SDG Impact, SDG 8, Decent Work and Economic Growth, the winner is India Shelter for their exemplary leadership, innovation, and staggering result in driving sustainable development and also social progress. I would like to welcome Mr. Sam Crispin to come on the stage to hand them the award. Miss Min, could you please come on the stage to accept the award on behalf of India Shelter? Mr. Sam Crispin. Mr. Rajiv, could you please come? Now, for Best SDG Impact, SDG 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities, the winner is Urban A&O. Urban A&O is chosen for the Best SDG Impact Award for Goal 11 because of their commitment to create safe, resilient, and sustainable communities.
Audio Jungle.
Unfortunately, they're not present here today, so it'll be a virtual event. Moving on to the next award, Best SDG Impact, Goal 12, Responsible Consumption and Production. The winner is Haley's Fabric for energy efficiency, green product development, responsible consumption, and minimizing environmental impact, and also promoting circular economy principles. This would also be virtual. hope you're enjoying your main course. I hope everybody's enjoying their main course. Now for Best SDG Impact, SDG 17, the winner is Impact Velocity. They have been chosen for this award because they have demonstrated a deep understanding of the significance of collaboration in achieving lasting impact. Their efforts have not only benefited their organization, but have also contributed towards creating a sustainable and inclusive future for all. I would like to welcome Mr. Ramnath to hand over the award to Impact Velocity. Please say a few words.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Corpstage, for the great awards and this particular recognition to Impact Velocity. We are 9 months old. It's a great validation of our business model. What I wanted to say is that our model is based on collaboration. So, if any one of you in the group is looking for collaboration with an organization which empowers incubators, accelerators, and impact funds, please talk to me tomorrow or later this evening. Thank you.
Now, for the next agenda for the day, we have Ms. Rupashi Wadhawan as our third keynote speaker for the event. Could I please request you to come on stage?
Good evening, everyone. I hope all of you are enjoying your main course. And so this is a story time. So I will be sharing my life story, my sustainable story, and few things which I noted from here. So there is no particular agenda, no big datas, nothing. It's just simple life stories. So I'm an Indian, and basically most of the population lives in villages, and I belong to Indian Air Force officer family. So that's how we traveled all over India, from north to south, from east to west, and that's how I came close to the indigenous community in India. So my company, Kalingarup, is working, it's a 2-year-old company. It's working for the tribal of Odisha, and I'm putting up in the northern part of India, and the tribes I'm working for is in the eastern part of Odisha. The thing how it happened, like if we maintain like the balance between the urban population and the rural population, like most of the population of India is in rural areas. So they are basically someone who are promoting or they're practicing sustainability. Like whatever you know, you heard about Ayurveda. What Ayurveda is actually our simple lifestyle. Like that is a life what Indian live. So Ayurveda belongs to our Indian community is a regular practice. We don't try to, learn it from somewhere. So basically, I have taken notes from here only. Someone was talking about, some eminent speaker, about that rice. So rice growing and everything. So I work with a rice growing community who are basically using the waste, the rice husk. So I'm promoting the rice husk painting. No doubt it is very, a small amount which they take, but if we promote them, naturally it's going to help us in future. And one of the person speaker mentioned about stubble burning, which is actually affecting our nature and everything. We also experience it there. Like Punjab, the place where I belong to right now, where I'm putting up, that has the highest case of stubble burning. So it's like a personal thing, like my house is in between a field. So generally what happens, the person, he burns it, and when the wind blows, all the residues used to come to my place. And we started developing those breathing issues. So I asked them personally not to do that. So being a responsible citizen, I hope that's how the thing starts. You can always start from, someone mentioned again that everything starts from mother, from the first teacher. So that's how I practice. Like I'm teaching them not to do that, and my company also promotes these art forms which are actually waste and nature waste, but they don't harm nature. So they promote these art forms. I have displayed few of the art forms here. Basically, if like my suggestion, no doubt it's a very basic things to do. If we preserve the culture of a village and we promote that in the urban areas, I hope we can get a market which is sustainable. Like the products, the villages, instead of making them smart villages or turning into a town, we should leave it there only. And we should concentrate on the smart cities. So there is a balance, ecological balance between the country. Like the urban population, they can, yes, develop the technologies and all. And the rural population, they should maintain their sustainability, the way they are living. And the urban population should help them in incorporating different ways to the sustainable living. So this way, I guess, both of us can benefit. So I haven't prepared anything. I prepared it here only after listening all of you. So again, someone mentioned about developing area in near Mumbai. So they gave the water areas. So I'll just talk about that in a small way, what we did. Like we were few friends, we visited a village, and the whole village was generally covered with, we call it chapad, but the thing is it's stagnant water, which was the highest malaria producer. So what we did, we asked few of the villager boys, the young boys, to help us in cleaning that so that they get the place. So we provided, there are so many people who provided machineries for that, because see, when it comes to donation, Punjabis are on the top. So they helped it, and we cleaned the whole area. We made it again a beautiful watershed area. And now when we visit that place, the oldies, they have kept benches near that pond, and few of them donated ducks. So that became a beautiful place, and we gave them that as a gift. Now the villages are taking care of those. So it's just from a personal level, we can do these small things. I know all of you are doing a very, bigger projects and that, but I'm discussing about my journey, how we are doing. My company is promoting different art forms, which are 3,000 to 4,000 year old. And those are like, why we are promoting it, because they are one of the greatest art forms of the world. And we have just few indigenous families who are creating it, and they are totally sustainable. So we are giving them market, and we are giving them livelihood. So that is my journey to this sustainable place, and where everybody's, I know I'm not there yet, but I'm pretty sure I'm on the right track. So thank you so much for having me here.
Okay, next we have a presentation from a young sustainability champion, Mark Powerith, whom you saw as a MC today morning. He has got a very impressive profile. He has been on the Junior Master Chef in Thailand. He'll tell you more about that. And he's like kind of young influencer and a sustainability champion. And he'll talk about his sustainability initiatives and what he has been doing. And that's the reason why he was here full day. If you noticed, he's just 17 years. And he was here since morning 8 o'clock till 10 p.m. now. Okay, Mark, please come. Please, big round of applause to this young champion.
So thank you very much, Dr. Nisha, for the wonderful introduction. So as Dr. Nisha mentioned, if you were here for the morning session, I was one of the MCs for the morning session. But if you're not here for the morning session, or if you forgot my name from the morning session, my name is Mark Pararit, and today I will be talking about how food waste is a main determinant of climate change. So first of all, I would like to say that I'm honored and privileged to be talking here today at the ESG World Summit. I've known Dr. Nisha from my friend VK, who was my MC partner for the morning session. So, yeah. So from listening to all of the speakers who came up and talked today during the morning session, I would like to say that I learned a lot from all of the talks, because as from a student perspective who is going to be applying for university next year, I'm still trying to find my interest in what I wanted to learn on a university level. So I've been exploring a lot of what I wanted to learn, a lot of changes of my interests, but my current interest is that on a university level, I wanted to learn more about renewable and sustainable energy, more on about environmental engineer. So here today, from listening to all of you talk, I would say that I learned a lot, and it helped me a lot in my decision of what I want to learn on a university level. So if you have any suggestions for me for what I want to study in during the free time, it would be great to have you guys' advice. So yeah, that's a nice picture of me. Dr. Nisha mentioned a little bit about my background. So 4 years ago, I competed in a cooking competition called MasterChef Junior Thailand Season 1, where I went through to the final stage. But even though I didn't win, after the competition, I get a chance to attend events, cooking events all over Thailand, in many provinces in Thailand, in Chiang Mai, in Phuket, and even in the Isan here in Thailand. So on top of that, other from those cooking events, I also get to work with a non-profit organization called Food for Good. A little background for Food for Good. Food for Good is a non-profit organization mainly focuses on solving the problems of Thai school lunch program. So as I was used to be a Thai school student, I get to experience firsthand of the lunch school problem here in Thailand. As you can see, us Thai kids from Thai schools, we might be a little bit short, a little bit undersized. So compared to compared to me. So when I was studying in international school with VK, I was like one of the smallest kid in the class. But when I go back to visit my friends at the Thai school, my height was actually the average height there. So when Food for Good came and pitched the idea about wanting to fix the school lunch program here in Thailand, I was deeply invested in. And I've been working with Food for Good during the January of last year. So we did a fundraising event where we raised 150,000 baht, where we get to help 2 schools in the north of Thailand in the province Loi. So last summer, I get a chance to go and visit the schools in the province of Loi, and I get to see firsthand of how the schools are different from before we were going there and we helped them with the lunch program, and how was it after when we helped them with the lunch program. So what we're trying to do at Food for Good is that we are not just giving the funds that we raised, the 150,000 baht, we're not just like giving it to them and then having them to deal on their own. We're trying to build a sustained program for them so that even after the fundings is over, they can sustain a good school lunch program where it is nutritious on their own. So I visited there. It was quite far from the airport itself. It was in a small village, the 2 schools. And before we go there for Food for Good, the schools actually only have 1 trip. The school faculties only have 1 trip per week to go and buy all the ingredients for the school lunch. Only 1 trip to buy ingredients for a whole week of lunch. So what we did as Food for Good is that we created a program where these schools have their own farms, such as plant farms, vegetable farms, fruit farms, and also animal farms that they can grow in their own schools. Not only will the students get to learn more about the agriculture, they can also use these resources as an ingredients for their school lunch program. So not only about me fixing the school lunch program, I also get to experience firsthand of how the food waste that was left over was disposed. So I first thought about the idea of food waste when I was cooking a dinner night at home. Normally I don't think much about what I throw away in the trash, but that day I thought some of the food waste that I throw away, some of those doesn't even make it to our plates. So, such as the vegetable roots or some parts of the fruits that are unedible, those parts have to be thrown away. So then I realized, every time I cook, there's always food waste thrown away in the trash. And I thought, I'm not the only one who cooks, and I'm certainly not the only one who sometimes have food left on my plate when I finish eating. So if I alone generate this much amount of food waste every time I cook, how much food waste does the whole world generate, let alone in Thailand? And this is all coming from a student perspective, seeing the problem of food waste. So then I researched a project of my own. It is a compost project where I research of how can these food waste can be dealt with in a sustainable way. So I found out that there have been many organizations who build compost bins where we can put the food waste that was produced every time when I cook. I put in there, and then I put it along with the compost, and then these bins in about a month or 2, it will generate compost where these composts can be used to grow plants. So what I did as an experiment is that I used these compost that was produced from the bins, and I use it to grow plants. And the plants that I chose to grow is that I was experimenting with chilies, and I used the compost instead of the dirt to grow the chilies. And once the chilies are all grown and they pop out the chilies, I use these chilies to go back into my cooking. So what I'm trying to do is that I'm trying to find a good cycle, a sustainable cycle of how these food waste can be dealt with. So from the idea of food waste, these food waste can be used into a compost bin, and they generate compost, and then these composts can be used back to grow plants, vegetables or fruits, etc. And those plants can be used back in cooking. So it is creating a nice cycle for the food waste. So to conclude my talk here today, I'm not from an expert point of view. I heard everyone, a lot of you guys talk about e-waste, of how these carbon emissions, because food wastes are bad when they are getting disposed not correctly. So they generate greenhouse gases and they can create a climate change problem. So to conclude my talk today, I just wanted to say that, remind everyone that you can help climate change every time you eat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. It was very impressive.
Next, we'll just take it here. Okay, for the next winner, we have Best Sustainable Innovation. The winner is Urban A&O. Urban A&O is chosen for the Best Sustainable Innovation Award because of their commitment and exceptional effort to drive sustainable innovation as their innovative solutions. Their solutions have contributed to the industry but also set an example for others to follow. And using indigenous solutions for betterment of industry visionary, safe, resilient, sustainable city and promote community urban development. Unfortunately, they are not here today.
So Urban A&O is represented by Mr. Joe McDonald, and you saw his projects and designs, so he really deserves it. But I think he got a better thing than the award here. He got a potential client and collaboration, so he's out for dinner. So maybe we will hand over the award tomorrow morning, but we are announcing. Yeah.
And next, we have the award for Sustainability Champion. All of us here are actually Sustainability Champion, but this, we have two amazing, inspiring leader, a woman and a man. For the
shortlisted by the jurors for their excellent work. These people actually did not apply, but they, we shared their work with the jurors, and we would like to announce their names. That is a secret that we wanted to keep, right? And for the best sustainability man, we have, can you guess from today's presentations? We have Mr. Ramnath Vaidyanathan. And for the sustainability woman, we have Desi, who's doing excellent work in Indonesia.
And we would like to invite Mayor Mr. Zul Afian Umar to give the sustainable champion from one sustainable champion to another.
the special category, we have most promising transition, and there's a tie between two companies. One is Nickel Industries. Now, as you know, nickel, and the waste that goes, so it's not a good industry to be awarded for ESG. But you'll meet the Chief Sustainability Sustainability Manager tomorrow. His flight got delayed by 2-3 times, so he was messaging us again and again that, he wouldn't be. But tomorrow he's on the panel as well. So we will hand over the award tomorrow to him. That's Nickel Industries from Indonesia again. And we have another most promising transition that is called Vito Hon Mai from Vietnam. And here we have the representative from VTHM is Dr. Ramesh Ramchandra, who has been consulting them actually. And the reason why VTHM has got this most promising is because it's an unlisted company, but even then they have made 30-year-long commitments, and they have adopted 3P strategies, and we evaluated that company. Every single employee and every stakeholder in that company knows about the 3P strategy of the company. So in that sense, they have done good job as far as S and G. For the environmental, they are facing some challenges, and those challenges are in terms of the fuel that they're using. So Vietnam is very highly dependent on coal, and this company is trying, let me give this to Dr. Ramesh. She'll be able to. No, you say. So Vietnam is heavily dependent on coal. Even the government supports coal because of the the price of coal, etc. So it's a challenge for Vietnamese companies and manufacturing hub to replace coal with other fuel and to decarbonize. But they are taking steps. So the company, initially they started working with cashew shells, but unfortunately this didn't work for them because of the intensity of heat required for ceramic industry. So they manufacture tiles, and they are like the top 3 in the tiles manufacturing companies. And the reason why the jurors gave this award, the notes that we received is, even though the company is not yet ready, but we feel that the company has the guts or commitment made for the long term. That is why they deserve, because of the mindset, because of their engagement with the stakeholders. So they deserve this. And we wish that next year you will be rising star or trailblazers.
Very good. Can I say a few words on behalf of the company? Okay, so Vito Hoan Mi Group is called VTHM, and it's the largest Vietnamese-owned ceramic tiles manufacturer. So they have 4 factories and about 2,500 people. And in 2020, October, they started their succession planning. And what they did was they created a 30-year vision, which they called it the transgenerational legacy future. And then they cascaded it down to their ceramic tiles business. And in fact, what's interesting is that this award comes at a time when, just a few days back, they stopped production for 50 days to support the Vietnamese government in their national energy crisis. So right now, we don't have enough electricity. And because they are the largest Vietnamese manufacturer, everyone in the marketplace is very startled by what they did, because most producers will be happy to pay under the table money and continue the production. So they said, well, this is not consistent with our commitment to the 3 Ps. The commitment to 3 Ps is essentially people's inner development. So what they say is that if you know a bit about system awareness and how, as a system, you're interrelated and interconnected, therefore, what it means is that there are often unintended consequences, and you want to be aware of that. And so that is a 3-day program that is their key methodology. And they have about 600 people who have done this work, both in the company and outside the company. And the second piece is about planet renewal. And the third commitment, which is a 3P, is prosperity sharing for the people who are at the bottom of the pyramid. And which is, out of the 2,500 people, 2,000 of them are actually workers who earn less than $2 a day. So thank you very much for this award. On behalf of the next generation successors, I want to thank Corpstage, Dr. Nisha, and everyone here for giving them this recognition. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have two more announcements for the awards, but you know, as you know, for the awards, we have one application and two categories a company could apply for, and two companies actually got lucky with two award categories. So one is IFCO Group. We have Ahmad Vakar. Maybe I'll invite him because actually, unfortunately, we have one trophy for one company, even though two awards. But we would like to have a few words from him. The company actually applied for two projects. One was on SDG 2, which was they launched their plant-based meat. And the jurors actually liked the nutritional quality of the food. Maybe he'll talk more about it. And the net zero early mover is represented for the entire group, IFCO group. Last year, actually, they also applied last year. They are a Dubai-based company, more than 12,000 employees. Last year they applied, they got SDG 15, and they actually applied for their RSPO, their projects in Indonesia, where they do afforestation rather than deforestation. So that's the reason why they got SDG 15, and more from Ahmed, who is representing IFCO. And yeah, Ahmed, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. So IFCO group was established back in 1975. We are working in different sectors. We are having like our beauty products, oil and fats products, as well as we are having some products in culinary items, while we are dealing in olive oil and these things as well. So while if you talk about our sustainability journey, so in our sustainability journey, we have actually made some kind of, you can say, commitments for our 2025 as a target for us, which we are going to achieve under the three pillars, like which is our people, planet, and products. So the product which Dr. Nisha was mentioning is the first ever the plant-based meat in Middle East. So that product is, you can say the name of the product is Thrive. So whoever will visit UAE next time, it's available in Carrefour and everywhere, and even the Choitram and all the major retail markets there. So I would request all of you to try that meat, and I hope you would love that. So that is the first product which we have applied. On the same time, as I mentioned, under three pillars, we are working in our sustainability strategy under the leadership of Dina Epifanova, who was available last time in Singapore. So we also have working towards the calculation and how we can go towards this early mover thing as well. So I'm very thankful on receiving this award on behalf of IFCO Group, and I also want to congratulate Dr. Nisha and her team on organizing this kind of a successful event. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ahmed. The other company which I was talking about got the second award is India Shelter Finance. They are basically microloans, home loans company. They also applied last year and they got this SDG 8, which they got this year as well. A very impressive comments we received from the jurors. They were highly, positive, and I was surprised. But I was also surprised, why did the company apply for the same category again? But congratulations to India Shelter, and the other award that they've won this year is Sustainable Finance Product. So they are enabling women entrepreneurs, women workers to do more businesses also. So that's the reason why they got Sustainable Finance. In Sustainable Finance category, it's not just about carbon credit finance here, like we discussed in the morning. We look at even E and S, both the categories. So if the finance is actually impacting the social life, another potential, shortlisted company we had is a large company, but this company was chosen in this particular category. So anyway, the impact that they have on the social lives of the people is more. That's the reason why they were selected for Sustainable Finance Award. And that's the actually wrap up of the awards with all the special categories. So overall, we had 3 mains, SDGs, and the special awards categories. Now it's the time to have a group photo, and I'm sure all of you are tired, sleepy, and we have sessions, couple of sessions tomorrow as well. So please feel free, let's gather together on the stage for the group photos. I know most of the people left because it was a tiring day for everyone. Some had important meetings, and they got meetings in the meeting here. So yes, let's take this opportunity to make a memorable, this evening memorable. Let's gather on the stage and get pictures. Yeah, thank you.
So what we can do also actually is, Nisha, we can do 2 lines, one on stage, one below here, and we can move in front. And camera ready.